Realize it or not, special ability vehicles are a big reason why a lot of us play GTA Online. Without them, the game would just be way less fun. Thank goodness we have them, because on this list we're gonna look at the coolest special ability vehicles, whether on it has a cool add-on or it can transform to something completely different. First is the Hydra. It's not just an ordinary jet, it's got a feature which is very unique and actually really useful, which is being able to switch between hover mode and jet mode. You can make it act completely different, and it literally changes the controls of it as well. When holding right on the D-pad on console, you can change between these two modes. So let's say you start off in hover mode, which acts like a helicopter, and that makes it very easy to land if you need to, and when you want to go way faster, you can hold right on the D-pad and switch into jet mode or plane mode, whatever you want to call it, and then you're going to see the purple boost on the back of it. That's how you know you're in jet mode, and you notice the controls are different then, and the Hydra just goes way faster. Let's say if you spawn in the Hydra at the airport and you need to go to Paleto Bay, you can go up in there in hover mode and then switch to plane mode so you're a lot faster, and just zoom across the map to Paleto Bay, and then if there's no runway there, which specifically in Paleto Bay there isn't, you can switch back to hover mode and then easily land the jet. It's really dangerous and a bit challenging to land the plane without blowing up, so having that helicopter acting hover mode is really useful. I believe it's one of the, if not the only vehicle that has those two modes all in one. The next special ability vehicle is the Ruiner 2000. That's basically the parachute car, you can say. It's actually got two cool features you can do with it, but the main thing about it is that it literally pulls a parachute midair. There's a lot of great things about this vehicle, but let's start with the two features we mentioned earlier. So the first one being the jump boost, which a lot of people use to actually pull the parachute. You can press down on the left stick and then you jump up in there, and then press A or X if you're on PlayStation to pull the parachute. The physics of the parachute is actually really cool. You could be going in one direction, and if you point your car somewhere else while you're falling in one direction and you pull the parachute while you're facing in the other direction, you're gonna instantly start moving towards the direction you were facing in while you were falling. Hopefully that made sense. And this nice 1-2 combination can save you a lot from crashing and just escaping stuff. Now let's go into the more armored slash weaponized side of this vehicle. Let's start with the weapons it has. So it's got the lock on and lock off missiles and the machine gun. Obviously people want to use the missiles most of the time, and let me tell you, the Ruiner 2000's missile tracking is absolutely crazy. If you don't get what I'm talking about, basically the missiles on this thing are super accurate. One of the most accurate in the game. Is definitely a great counter to the Oppressor Mark II. It does have a limited amount of missiles, so it's not like unlimited and extremely OP, but the 20 or 30 missiles you do have with this thing are definitely going to be pretty freaking effective. For those that want to go check it out in the Warstock website, you're going to come across a very steep price tag of $5.7 million. That is a ton of money, I'm not gonna lie. The trade price of it is $4.3 million, which is a decent reduction, but if you don't want to lose that much money, it might be worth it to wait until there's a discount on it in one of the bonus week updates. Next up is a vehicle that just doesn't get much love and is pretty under the radar. That is the Thruster, basically the GTA jetpack. I'm somewhat surprised this vehicle has been under the radar for so long. It just doesn't get a lot of attention like ever. I mean, sure, it may not have the best defensive ability and it's not the easiest to control, but I mean, this vehicle is extremely unique and there's nothing like it in the game. To be able to buy it and upgrade it, you do need a facility, and having it fully upgraded actually makes it pretty solid. You can choose between a machine gun and missiles for the weapons. Obviously most people want to go for the missiles. The countermeasures on it are also solid. They're not going to be super insane, but you can add the flare or the chaff on it. Personally, I like the flare. It's not like you're super prone to all other weaponized vehicles. You do have the tools to combat it, is what I'm saying. You just look like an absolute badass in this. Taking off and landing just looks super cool and everything. The only downside with it is the price. It's going to be pretty expensive since you need a facility, and it's going to cost you a few $1,000,000 as well. Next up is the Wild Scramjet. I like this vehicle a lot. Sometimes it just feels like a drivable frisbee, and I'll explain why later on. It actually has the same feature as the Ruiner 2000. If you press down on the left stick, you have the jump boost with it, and then it's got a very nice rocket speed boost on the back, which goes on for a long time compared to other boosts in the game. Some vehicles rocket boost is just quick, but the Scramjet is like a good couple seconds, which means you can go really far with the boost. What I like to do with it is the jump boost, and then I just point it up into the sky and then boost up into the sky, and you just go flying. And since the Scramjet is so light, like you're gonna feel it's a very light vehicle. If you try to turn with it in the air, it's just gonna be like a frisbee, spinning non-stop. It's actually a lot of fun. Along with this, you have the machine gun and the lock-on and lock-off missiles, just like a lot of other vehicles. No countermeasures or anything on it though, and it does blow up after one explosive hit, so you do want to be careful. Next one is the Toreador, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's a great vehicle. This one's special ability is not only the rocket speed boost on the back of it, which is a short one, but it recharges very quick, which is kind of a good trade-off to do, I guess. That boost is kind of like the complete opposite of the Scramjet boost. That one goes on for a long time. It takes a bit to recharge, but the more interesting and unique ability is that it can literally turn into a mini submarine. Drive into any body of water with it and you're gonna see it's not gonna drown. What you need to do is hold right on the D-pad and then it completely transforms into a little submarine slash boat. And the best part about that is you can still use the boost while you're in that boat mode or whatever you want to call that, because otherwise without the boost you would be pretty slow underwater. I think the Stromberg can also do it, but personally I like the Toreador a lot more than the Stromberg. It's just a better overall vehicle, but I guess you could include the Stromberg in here as well. Of course, it's got the lock-on and lock-off missiles, which is good. It also has a machine gun, which is a little less popular, and something very beneficial with it is it takes a good couple missiles to blow it up, so it doesn't blow up after only one explosive, which makes it another good Oppressor Mark II counter. Next up is the Deluxo, which I like to see it as the plain version of the Toreador, although I think they released the Toreador after the Deluxo, so technically the Toreador is the boat version of the Deluxo. Now the Deluxo doesn't have as good explosive resistance as the Toreador, but it does have the missiles and the machine gun, and as I said, it's like the plain version of the Toreador. So if you press A or X if you're on PlayStation, you go into a cool flying hover mode, which you can probably imagine is a very useful feature. If you get stuck in any situation on land, you could just go into hover mode, or I'll call it flying mode with this one because it's not exactly like the Hydra, and get yourself unstuck or escape something. There's countless reasons why the flying ability is useful. Like we said with the Ruiner 2000, if you come across this price tag, your jaw might drop because it comes in at almost $5 million and a trade price of just over 3.5 million. Just like I said with the Ruiner 2000, it might be best to wait till it's on discount, because yeah, it's a really cool vehicle, but I don't think it's quite worth almost 5 mil, and that's before upgrades and everything. Next up is one that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, and that is the Blazer Aqua. It's a nice and compact little small car. I wouldn't even call it a car, it's more of like a quad bike built thing. I like to see this one as the Toreador's little brother, because it has a similar ability. When you go in the water with it, one, you can't drown, but you can't go underwater. It's only a boat, it's not exactly like a little tiny submarine. And by pressing right on the D-pad with it, you can go into boat mode. You do have a machine gun with it as well, with no rockets. You're gonna have to live with only a machine gun on this small and compact vehicle. It just overall has less than the Toreador. It's more of a budget version if you don't have money for the Toreador, although it's still expensive at $1,755,000. So if for whatever reason you still want to go with this one, even though it's significantly less cool, I mean, it's not that bad, don't get me wrong, but the Toreador is definitely superior. And if you want to see the best Benny's vehicles in GTA Online, click the video on screen now. I hope you all enjoy that video, and peace.